This is the Final Word T20 World Cup Daily. It's day 24, part 2. Jeff Lemon with you. Flying solo tonight because why not? It's past 1:30 in the morning in the Caribbean. I'm in St. Lucia. The game was 15 minutes away in St. Vincent. It was Afghanistan, Bangladesh. The show's brought to you by Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City. And this is going to be an end of the Super 8s kind of show. We're just gonna get through it because it has been a long few days. It's been a long few weeks, and we've got semi-finals to come. The game in 30 seconds. Afghanistan needed a win. Bangladesh needed a big win. Afghanistan seemed overawed by the occasion at first. A pitch that was difficult to score on, but they made very heavy weather of it. A long, slow opening partnership. Eventually, that was broken. Wickets started to fall, and only some late hitting by Rashid Khan got them up to 115. In their 20 overs, it looked well unders. Bangladesh looked like they might chase it for about 5 minutes. They needed to get it in 12 overs. They looked good for 1 over, and then they started losing wickets. They went back in their shells, and they ended up being all out 105. Lytton Dust carried his bat, but dramatically the final couple of wickets fell with a handful of balls to spare. 7 balls to spare, 10 runs the difference. 30 seconds and a bit done. Right, you're just going to have to bear with me. We're going to work our way through things. This was engrossing. It was captivating. Afghanistan have qualified for the semi-finals of a T20 World Cup, which is a massive deal in and of itself. They'll play South Africa in Trinidad, and they did so unconvincingly off the back of this game. It was engrossing. In some ways, it was one of the best games of cricket I've ever seen. In some ways, it was one of the worst games of cricket I've ever seen. It was two teams that seemed to lack the confidence to try to take each other out and weren't entirely sure how they wanted to go about things. So Afghanistan did what they did against Australia. They won the toss. They chose to bat. They knew that they didn't need a huge score, but Ibrahim Zadran and Rahmanullah Gurbaz, they were brought back together for that Australia game. They put on that century partnership, but they scored pretty well in that game, 7 and a bit and over. Couldn't get going in the same way here. So Tanzim Hassan Shakib, who's been so good for Bangladesh throughout this tournament, opens up with the bowling. There's nearly a run out first ball. The opening bowling's hot. Taskin Ahmed's moving the ball around, beating the edge. There's one punch from Ibrahim Zadran for 4 through cover, but for the most part, they're stranded by the ball moving around a fair bit, the openers. But there are some giveaways. Tanzim bowls at 1.4 byes, a couple of overs later bowls 5 wides, which massively helps that opening partnership when they're struggling to score. Shakib's first over after the power play, Gurbaz hits a straight 6. And then Rashad Hussain, the leg spinner, comes in. He's bowling well. Mustafizur Rahman bowls a good over. And then in Rashad's second over, they're 59 for none in the 11th. They're just not moving. Afghanistan's opening pair, they can't find a way to get any sort of rhythm up. Ibrahim Zadran gets frustrated, hits out to long off, and he's out for 18 off 29. And obviously you have to change for different conditions, but this opening partnership, the slowness of the lack of speed that they were scoring at, seemed like they were overawed by the occasion. They knew they had to win to go through, and it felt like that was too much of a task for them at that point in time. So Taskin at that point bowls a maiden to Gurbaz after the wicket falls, to get a sense of the kind of tension that's in this innings. There are no easy runs being scored at this point. Taskin's maiden well bucked up in the field. There are a couple of good saves during that over. And by the time they get a run off Shakib Al Hassan, they've gone 13 balls without a run. This is the level of tension there is. Gurbaz finally sort of gets going, finds the fence a couple of times, plays a cut shot off Rashad and then a sweep. Shakib started to bowl well at this point. Mustafizur then gets Azmatullah Ramatsai caught behind. Good review, actually. It's toe end of the bat. Umpire doesn't give it. They review it immediately. It's nicked the toe. He's out. And then Rashad Hussain, in his 4th and final over, gets Gurbaz as well, the other opener, slogging the ball up to mid-off. And then Gulbadin is held. Good catch from Sumya Saka, who has to come running in from a long way from deep point as the ball hangs up there. So at this point, they've lost 3 wickets in 6 overs. They've made 89 in nearly 17 overs. And this looks like an all-time botch. Not that Bangladesh are the most convincing batting team in the world, but you're thinking they're well on top here. Taskin Ahmed gets Mohammad Nabi out slogging. And then it's all on Rashid Khan, who comes in and hits 3 sixes in the space of 13 balls, starts with a pull shot off Tuscan Ahmed, can't get a run through the 4 balls that he faces during an over from Mustafiza, but then last ball of the innings, Tanzim comes back and Rashid goes sort of helicopter whip over point, and then a very crisp, massive shot actually off the pads from Tanzim. Luckily, it's the last ball of the innings because the ball was never coming back. Like, that one just went over the roof and way out of town. So that got them to 115, right? Like, that's Rashid coming in at the end and smoking 3 sixes, and even with that, they only got to 115. Without him, it could easily have been double figures as a score. So Bangladesh, this is their calculation. They need to chase that in 12.1 overs to qualify. And it's not the easiest batting wicket, but you think if that's what you have to do, it could be possible to do it, right? You could go at 10 and over and make that happen. The first over, there's a lot riding on Naveen Ul-Haq. And Lytton Das opening the batting, nicks a ball for 4, then he pumps him for 6 over mid-wicket, 13 off the first over. Hello, they're in this, right? And then Gurbaz at the end of the first over, the wicket keeper, also the opening bat, goes off the field, gets hit on the knee by a delivery, not happy about it, swaps off for the substitute keeper and goes off. So at this point, kind of Bangladesh's game. And then the second over, it's Fazal Haq Farooqi doing what he's been doing all tournament, which is taking early wickets. He traps Tanzir Hussain in front. Third duck in 4 innings for Tanzid. So that hurts. And then Naveen in the third over, the double strike that does so much damage. Shanto, the skipper, who's one of the more aggressive upbeat players, caught it deep mid-wicket trying to take the game on. Shakib gets a little leading edge return catch almost immediately afterwards. Pretty sure it was the first bowler. And they're 23 for 3. They're gone, right? They're not going anywhere at this point. And then it rains. And then they come back on with no overs lost, but they've had a little bit of a break to get their breath back. And Lytton Das smacks a cut shot for 4. And then Rashid Khan bowls Sumya Sarkar. So, there's pull one way, there's pull the other. Khridoy facing Muhammad Nabi, taking him on, playing the sweep shot a lot, top edges. There's 2 runs off a top edge where it might have been caught, but the fielder didn't quite make up ground. There's 4 more off the top edge where there's a misfield behind the keeper. And then he nails 1 for 4 as well. So all sweep shots at this point. And then the next over gets caught at deep mid-wicket off Rashid. So at this point, Bangladesh, 64 on the board, 5 down. They need 52 to win. And they've got Rashid into the equation here, right? He's got the taste at this point. So Lytton Das, though, is still there. He's opened the batting. And this is in the 9th over. After Rashid's taken the wicket, he flat bats 4 down the ground. Then he plays a delicate little dab fine that goes sort of through a fine deep third, couple of boundaries in the over. Noor Ahmad comes on, the left-arm wrist spinner. His first over's the 10th, 5 dot balls, and Mahmudullah cover drives 1 for 4. So this is just bizarre at this point, right? Remember that Bangladesh need to win this in 12.1 overs in order to go through to a semi-final. And with a couple of overs to go, they need 39 from 2 overs at this point. They're just ticking singles. They're just nudging the ball around. So basically they've already given up, which is frankly pretty embarrassing. Like, there's no point trying to win the game in 20 overs as opposed to, if you've got a semi-final spot on the line. So having gone 12 off and over and then 10 off and over, they then go 4 off the next over, and then they're just nudging the ball around the field. And then Rashid Khan does the double. Bottom edge off Mahmudullah, not given. Again, they review well. It's out. And then he bowls Rashid Hussain, who's been a pretty dangerous striker of the ball for Bangladesh. He's been hitting 6s throughout the tournament, down the order. It rains again, which finishes up pretty quickly. It costs them an over. So the chase gets shortened by 19, and the runs get docked by 2. That doesn't really help Bangladesh very much. But you would think that... So they've given up the 12 over thing. That's not going to happen. But they need 32 from 42 just to win the game. And winning the game would knock Afghanistan out. It would send Australia through, but it would at least give Bangladesh a win in the Super 8s. And so they've resigned themselves to trying to do that. Lytton Das is still there, tapping the ball around for the most part. They have a decent over against Rashid Khan. They take 6 off it in 1s and 2s and avert the hat-trick ball after he'd taken the 2 in 2. And then Noor Ahmad, who's been pretty hard to hit in this tournament, bowls an over that only goes for 3. And then Gulbuddin Naib has to come on. It's not an Afghanistan win without Gulbuddin coming on to bowl his mediums. It's a 15th over, and Tanzim, who's batting down the order, chops a top edge up to cover. It's caught. Another wicket falls. So 8 down at this point. 22 to win. 26 balls remaining. Bangladesh just making this so bloody difficult for themselves to try to get to this target. They're just stretching it out and stretching it out. They need 20 from the last 4 overs. Noor Ahmad looks dangerous, but Lytton Das slog sweeps a 4, raises his 50 from 42 balls. Amazing considering what happened around him, which was absolutely bugger all as far as Bangladesh batting went. And then Gulbuddin bowls an over that only goes for 4. Somehow Bangladesh have let this creep up to a runner ball. Naveen ul Haq bowls the 18th, which is the second last because they're only going to 19. So interesting that Fazal Haq doesn't bowl out his full complement. Then it rains again. And Bangladesh are ahead on runs at this point when it rains. It's starting to rain, but Naveen then bowls Tuscan off the bottom edge. It's trying to slog through the offside. It keeps low. The wicket falls, and that puts Afghanistan ahead on rain, and they go off for a couple of minutes. They come back. They haven't lost any time at this point. There's 7 balls to go. There's the possibility of getting Lytton Das back on strike for the last over and trying to finish it off, trying to find 10 runs there. And Naveen finishes it off with an LBW, pins Mustafidza dead in front. They review it, but by this point, Afghanistan are running all over the field because they knew that it was absolutely plumb. So they've done it. Afghanistan have done it. They're through to the semi-finals. Bangladesh were a team that absolutely did their best to not win that game, aside from Lytton Das trying to scrape his way through, but Afghanistan didn't put them up any sort of target to begin with, and somehow just managed to scrape it through with the ball. I don't know if it's convincing. I don't know what it means they'll be able to put up against South Africa in Trinidad. But you never know. If they get a surface like this, then perhaps they can sort of pull this game down to the mat in a similar way and just scrap it out. And South Africa, well, they got through one close game, but they might not get through another one. That's all I can tell you about the game. Running it by myself here. We'll have a break if you're having them, and then the Hall of Fame. It is the final word, T20 World Cup Daily. Don't forget that it's gelato season for our friends at Westfield, London, as the weather starts to warm up in the UK. A better way than screaming for ice cream is to politely ask for gelato. The good folk at Badiani can help you out. They make their gelato under the watchful eye of Paolo Pomposi, who sounds like a very credible gelato maker. Badiani's signature Buon Talenti and Buon Talenti pistachio. That's what you want to get after. There are Badiani gelaterias all over the place in London, but we want you to go to the one at Westfield, London. Why not? Buy cones. Don't do anything else with cones. Hall of Fame, everybody's going to be talking about this. It's difficult not to. The point where it's just starting to drizzle a bit, and the point where Jonathan Trott, the Afghanistan coach, comes to the boundary line and puts his palms down facing the ground and says, slow it down, slow it down. And Gulbuddin Naib at slip immediately goes down as if he's been shot, grabbing the hamstring, literally face down in the turf. I've never seen anybody do anything like it. On a cricket field, just presumably trying to get a bit of time to go by in the hope that it would rain while they were ahead on Duckworth Lewis. Now, it wasn't universally popular. Rashid Khan, his captain, did not like it. He was yelling at his own player to get up and stop embarrassing him in front of everybody, something like that. That seemed to be the impression. Gulbuddin really commits to the bit. He gets helped off the field with his arms around other players' shoulders. He goes off to the boundary line. He walks up and down. He looks proppy, and then it rains for a few minutes, and then he comes back on with everybody else, and then he bowls an over, and then he takes a wicket, and he seems to be okay. Weirdly, he's running around quite happily at that point, and didn't have any trouble joining in the dance celebrations at the end. But yeah, very much commitment to the bit from somebody who's all about that. So that's right up there, and I'd throw in Simon Doull on the commentary for it's not always easy if you're doing the ICC official feed to be critical. A lot of commentators don't feel they can do that. Simon Doull gave Gulbuddin Naib plenty for that particular play acting effort, but also getting the real questions out about Bangladesh not actually trying to chase the target inside 12 once a few wickets had gone down. that idea just didn't seem to matter anymore, and he questioned it quite thoroughly. He said, what's the point, basically, of what they're doing? He said they'll be in the same place on the table. If they won that game but didn't win it in 12 overs, they'll be in the same place on the table. They won't pass Afghanistan for net run rate. They'll get a little bit of money for winning this game. Is that what they're playing for? It was a pretty bold question to put on the coverage. The important thing is that the result is in. Afghanistan are through. They will play a historic semi-final against South Africa, which means that there'll be a first-time finalist one way or another. The other one will be India and England. And that's it. I don't think I can tell you anything more about this game. I think I'm going to go to bed. And when I wake up, it will be the semi-finals, because that's how this works. This has been the Final Word T20 World Cup Daily, the end of the Super 8s, day 24.2, Afghanistan, Bangladesh. Jeff Lemon signing off. See you later.